Infidelity. Let's talk about it. An estimate from the Journal of Marriage and Divorce concludes that about 70% of married Americans cheat at least once in their marriage. What about that? Hello, my loves. It's Dr. Tara, your favorite sex and relationship expert here at Luvbites, the podcast for sexual wellness and exploration. Today with us, I have a very powerful woman with a really interesting story. Ashlynn.
Hello.
Ashlynn has learned to take care of herself while healing from the betrayal trauma in her life. Now she mentors and empowers women online to find results in their emotional and physical health and find their own versions of a happy and healthy life. Ashlynn also hosts her own podcast called This is Ashlynn, and I was a guest on her show as well. So please check out her podcast. She also co-hosted the podcast called The Betrayed, The Addicted, and The Expert. Hi, Ashlynn.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I am excited to hear more about your story because last time we met was me speaking about sexual confidence and sexual communication. So now I'd love to hear more about your story. Please share with us.
Okay. Well, I love following people like you and learning from you because I was, well, maybe a lot like you in the beginning. I was very uneducated sexually and not sexually empowered as well. And I got married young and brought in some of that sexual trauma with me and married someone who I'm no longer with, but we spent 21 years together. And in that 21 years, there was a lot of secrecy and the breach of trust, which what we call betrayal trauma. So it started with porn use that was very secretive and just so much shame around it. We grew up in a very religious home. And so it was, don't talk to me about it. It's this giant elephant in the room. I could feel the disconnect, but just, it's not your problem. Don't talk about it. But that led to relationships with other women who, women at work, the work wives, right? Where we spend all this time with. And so the first one, I was just told to get over it. Just get over it. It's, which is what a lot of women do. An affair, just brush it under the rug. I won't do it again. And we're good to go, right? Okay, sure. Although I felt really crappy inside. And so that's where the betrayal trauma for me started to come up. And I started to learn a little bit about what it looks like because I found myself, I would come into the room, get mad at my then partner, leave the room and think, who am I? Who have I become? I'm so mad and so mean and unhappy in my life. And no one around me knew because I was so embarrassed to say my partner has cheated on me that I didn't ask for help. So
wow, so you didn't tell your friends?
Oh, no. And there's so much shame. And I know I'm not alone now that I get to help other women who've been in this experience. But
so a lot of women experience this, but would not tell people in their circle because they're ashamed that that their marriage isn't like quote unquote perfect.
And so it's this weird, I'm protecting this person who I love, who's also betrayed and hurt me because I'm also really embarrassed that they didn't choose me. They went with someone else. And so it's this weird shame mix and very muddy and you feel very alone. The symptoms are very much like PTSD with betrayal trauma. And so I was having nightmares. I couldn't sleep. I had depression, anxiety, trust with myself went to zero. So I didn't know how it felt anymore to trust my gut, my intuition, because when I had, I felt like it had failed me.
Right.
I felt like he was having an affair and, he says no. And so I must be wrong. My intuition must be broken, but it was never broken. And that's what we find with most women is, and men get cheated on. Everyone gets cheated on, not everyone, but it goes both ways.
Yeah.
There's always two, right? So I started getting help. We both did. And we worked through the healing process to rebuild trust again And it started with me. I had to learn how to trust myself again in order to trust him, and just really redefine what a relationship can look like. And with a lot of sexual trauma, it was a lot of work. And so years and years in the making for me to feel safe in my own body and with someone else who had already hurt me. So I wanted to talk about like one of the little things that was actually a really big thing for me in the healing process, which is a sex fast and a sex feast.
Sex fast and sex feast.
Yeah. I mean, you can probably guess what it is, but a lot of people get scared off by the whole idea.
Yeah. Please talk about the process and also like how you came to know about it.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, you have to remember, I'm doing a lot of one-on-one therapy. I did group therapy with other women who were in my situation. So I was doing some reprocessing therapy, trying to get rid of some of those visual traumas so I wouldn't have a trauma response, because that's very common, especially when you're having sex, to have a trauma response if you have sexual trauma, which no one wants that, right? We don't deserve any of that. And yet here it is. So my therapist at the time had said, I really want you to redefine what sex is for you. And so it's kind of this reset, and it's very intentional. There's plenty of people, I'm sure, who may listen who are like, we're doing a sex fast, but it's not intentional. Like we just aren't having sex. That's different.
Right. That's different. So the intention is I'm going on a fast.
Yes. And it is both parties involved. It's not just one saying I'm fasting and don't touch me. It is truly, and you can do it so many different ways, but we chose to do, we don't touch. And it was very like, we are separate people living together, and we are redefining what sex means to us individually. Very individual process. It was not a couples thing. And so for me, I had to unwire, and I still continue to, a lot of the scripts in my head that bad girls love sex.
Right. Bad girls love sex.
Yeah. Or sex is more enjoyable for men.
Right.
It is for men. No. So I had to go through my own just narratives to decide what sex could mean for me. It also brought up when you're doing a very intentional reset, and it could be 30 days, it could be 90 days, whatever you want to do. Your eyes, I loved it. You were like, no.
I'm like 90 days. What?
No, thank you.
90 days sex fast. Wow.
We didn't do 90, but it's very common, especially if the trust has been just so broken and you really need a ground zero to start on.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. I have not prescribed anyone the sex fast, but I can definitely see the psychological reasoning behind such practice in terms of resetting everything. What it means to you, what it means to both of you together, what it means for them, and then where do we go from now, and what is our new like sexual goals together.
Exactly. And it kind of seems silly because I was in my 30s, and here I am totally resetting and saying, okay, what words do I like? Which words turn me off? Which these are very basics, but for me, it was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, that word is a turn off for me. But this one,
interesting.
I really like.
What words are turn offs for you? Like what's a word?
You're gonna laugh because I think we talked about this. I don't swear very often. I'm just a weirdo, but I don't mind everyone else swearing. But swearing for me is this huge turn on sexually. But for me, I couldn't even. I told you I grew up in a very religious home. My parents swore all the time, but for me, I have scrupulosity. So scrupulosity is like this OCD tendency to be good religiously. And so it was very intense.
There's a term for that?
It's intense. And that's why religion doesn't work for me anymore. It's my brain literally is just spins on being good. And defining that to a religion is just a lot for someone to take on. And so for me, swearing is so bad, right? But it also is so good. So I really enjoy it. It's a turn on in the bedroom.
It's a turn on.
Turn on.
Okay.
But I had to accept that I mean, this
Right.
sounds so ridiculous, but this is how I've gone from this really, I feel like boxed up woman. I was put in this box and said, this is what you believe and this is how you should feel. And then to redefine that was just, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. Um, so that was part of it. Also touch. So sensate focus is something that they recommend you do right after. And it's no sexual, it's touch, but it's not, there's no erogenous stones. It's like, let's touch your ear. Let's touch right here on your cheek or your jawline and see how that feels. And so 30 minutes dedicated to one person, 30 minutes dedicated to another, it really helps redefine what touch is for you.
Wow. So after 30-day sex fast,
Or 90.
Or stop, you're scaring me. This is Halloween or what? 30-day sex fast, which is also no touch. So not just no sex, but you did no touch. So you lived with your then husband in the same house with no
You're
touch.
Like, I don't understand.
I'm like, recompute 0100, bam. Like I'm broken now. I'm like, so 30 days, no touch, and it's a sex fast. And there's a psychological reasoning behind it because your therapist prescribed this for you to reset your sexual meaning, expectations, and goals together. So after that, the first thing they recommended was sensate focus.
Yes.
And that's just touching anywhere that's non-sexual.
Yes. So
and do you like ask the other person, like, how does this feel? How does this feel?
Yeah. And so it's there's no expectation, right? In fact, the goal is the opposite. Like there's no sex. It's just redefining touch. And it's a great practice, especially if you don't know your body well, of what does turn you on. Especially for women who've been betrayed, they shut a lot of that down because it's been so painful. And even a lot of, I've seen a lot of the men who come through these programs too, after they have betrayed many times, that they shut down sexually because sex has hurt their lives in a negative way. And so they've got to redefine and turn it back on.
Wow. So would you say after this sensate activity, you felt more like safe?
Oh,
how did you feel after the fast and this activity?
And I love that you use that word because that is one of the main components for sexual health is to feel safe, especially after that's been broken. And so
there is no pleasure without safe. Like you have to first feel safe. If we're talking about like the Maslow hierarchy of needs, like just need, like human need, safety is like top priority. And if there's no safety, I can't even begin to talk about sexual well-being in other ways. Like people often talk about pleasure, and I do too, right? How like we should embrace pleasure, especially women, because we were taught to feel ashamed about our sexuality and don't be sexual because you're a good girl, right? So we have to like work over that first and then try to feel pleasure. But at the same time, like feeling safe is not just like a one person job. It's also your partner, and like what are they providing? How do they make you feel? So then like after this sensate activity, did you feel more safe with him, or you just still feel like betrayed?
No, and I felt great, and I love all of what you just said because it does take two.
Because
we were doing very individual work, in therapy and group, but to come back together takes two. To save a marriage takes two. And so you have to remember, I was doing a lot of other work, not just the sex fast, to build safety. And this was in a place where I did feel safe in the relationship. So cheating was not happening currently. And he was, there was an agreement being made that, hey, we're working on rebuilding this together, individually, but together. And so I would never recommend that you try to rebuild and do these things in a place where you don't feel safe or it's very one-sided. So the ironic thing is you're saying all this, like you cannot have pleasure and all these things without safety. But one of the most common things, which I did too, was when there's been a breach of trust, it must be a sexual problem. So let's go to a sex therapist. And that is not usually the answer. It's not a sexual problem.
Right.
It's usually this connection, there's a lack of self-love on both ends. There's so many other things that are playing a role in it, but yet we feel like sex must be the problem. If we can just get that figured out.
Yeah.
And here we are going, but I don't feel safe. How are
Right.
we supposed to figure this out if I'm terrified to be with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, that we did that a few times to just, it's like mapping your
Pleasure mapping.
pleasure mapping. That's what it felt like for me, of just starting to see like, oh, there's other things you can be doing rather than just kissing or having sex.
So during the sex fast, did you masturbate?
No,
So no,
it's like
yeah,
cut
not
it
even
off.
also self-pleasure is also not a thing. So you have to completely
Yeah.
cut off. So it's like rewiring your brain for like no touch, no sex.
Yeah, because a part of it was for someone who they have multiple affairs, right? Um, Sex not only equals love and that validation of somebody wants me, but it was also, I will die without sex. And so it was like, let's see if I will die, because I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure I
let's see.
won't. Will I be happy? Probably not super happy, but you won't die.
Right. Right. That's the name of this episode. You won't die.
You're not going to die for 30 days. You can do
Okay.
it.
I'm excited about the afterwards, the sex feast.
You're like,
Because
let's move on.
when do we start having sex again? But like also, did you feel good? Like what is sex feast?
Okay, so sex feast is the fun part. So that's when you really are in a safe place and the relationship is in a place of rebuild, like fully. Okay. So this didn't happen like one after another. There was actually quite a bit of break for us as we continued to build trust. This can be different for everyone, especially if you've never had a breach of trust. Like you could say, let's do a 1 week sex fast and then let's do the feast for 30 days just
Right.
to see. You can do it however you want.
Okay.
So the sex feast is truly, it's 30 days of saying yes, no
Okay.
matter what, which means anything. And I get a lot of people because every September we do Sextember and we talk about sex. And part of that challenge is 30 days of sex. So it's fun because there's been a lot of babies born for this challenge. But a lot of women have messaged me over the years saying, gosh, I would say no because I wanted to watch TV or I was tired or whatever. And the difference in a sex feast is I wake up and I know I'm having sex that day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the
I already know.
self-expectation.
Yes.
Like, okay, this is happening.
Yes. Instead of one, I hope they don't ask, or are they going to initiate? Should I initiate? It's this weird thing that a lot of couples struggle with instead of just saying, no, we're having sex. And so you get to define what that looks like. It could be mutual masturbation. It can be oral. It can be actual penis to vagina sex, like whatever it is, whatever you're thinking.
Not just penetration.
No.
Not just the traditional like sex, right? Any kind of sexual activity.
Yes. Yeah. And so for me, it went from totally redefining what sex was to, wait a second, I actually love sex. What is even happening? And so for me to say yes, and to just go through my day knowing, one, you you become a little more sensual.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about sex more.
Right.
Are we going to do it at lunch? Are we going to do it for breakfast, dinner, whatever? I found that the reasons I was saying no, I was tired. Sex is usually still way more fun than going to bed. So I will always say yes than to go to bed.
So during the sex feast, how long did it take for you to build trust again and to start this sex feast with your past partner?
So I didn't learn about the feast until years later. So,
Okay.
and I've said, I started the sexual part of my healing. I waited too long.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very bullied in that relationship, even in the real rebuild part. So I I was protecting me for a long time. And when I did step into, okay, I feel safe in my own body, I feel safe in this relationship, I can finally start to work through some more sexual, embracing of this part of me. I just feel like I waited so long. So for me now, when I mentor, I'm like, okay, you're safe, get moving, like start working on the best part of all of this, because you are a sexual goddess and you get to embrace that with or without your partner. Like,
Right.
just go and do that. And I just waited so long. So now people are more doing it in that, in line. We'll do the sex fast, and then we'll do some sensate focus. We find safety, and then we move to the sex feast. So yeah, a lot quicker than I did. I'm just there doing it the slow way so I can tell you how to do it the faster way.
Exactly. I wanted to ask, do you mind sharing like how old were you when you finally embarked on like this sexual mindfulness journey, sexual awakening journey?
I was pretty old. I was probably 37.
Okay. Yeah, I actually have a couple of clients that are women in their 40s that have never had a vibrator.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm asking because like I don't think there's late, because there are people out there, men too. Like I talked to one guy the other day, not a client, but just like someone I met at a networking party. And of course, at a networking party, I talk about sex.
Yes,
and
of course you do.
It's all very inappropriate, which I like.
I want to go to a party with you.
Yeah, I know you should next time you're in LA. But basically I was asking him about masturbation and he's like, I try not to. I'm like, okay, well, interesting. Like, why? And he said, because I feel, guilty every time I touch my own penis. And if it's not with my wife. And I said, wow, okay, so sex is only meaningful and is only pleasurable and only heavenly, literally, with a wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I get that 100%. That's how I was taught.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was, wow. Okay. And, he was probably almost 50. So there's no late, right? So like for you comparing to maybe this guy, like you are sexually awakened way earlier than him. So that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing. I just wanted to show my audience that there's never a late time to start your sexual wellness journey, your sexual well-being.
I fully agree with that. And, for people who've known me a while and known how timid I was and still can be, my mom, the fact that I am totally okay talking about sexual well-being on the internet. I mean, I've gone on live TV about it. I've gone do it on the podcast here. It's unusual. And it was very uncomfortable for them at first. Like, who are you? What is happening? You are not the Ashlynn I knew. But now it's really fun because they have seen this is good for Ashlynn. And the good that it's brought me, but also by me being able to share how far I have come. And I continue to unlock pieces of me that I did not know were there, which blows my mind. I'm like, wait a second, I am 42 and this is still happening, which to me, I'm like, this is fantastic. Does it keep going till I'm 100? I don't know.
It keeps going.
I love it. So I'm all in.
Sexual awakening, the gift that keeps going.
Yeah, let's title that's the title of the next podcast.
I mean, it really is. I embarked on this journey in my late 20s and I'm still learning and I still love just learning new things. I, was a part of a pussy worshiping class.
Oh, tell me more.
You worship the pussy, Ashlynn.
Okay. I should probably sign up for that then.
Yeah. Tell your partner to come with you. Basically, it can be like a couple thing, but it can also be an individual thing. The one that I observe is a couple thing, and the partner worships the vulva owner's pussy.
I love it.
And there's like 5 different things you do step by step. So you like start with like very like slow chanting.
Okay. It's real worship. I like it. Okay.
Yeah. You start with chanting, like showing appreciation for the pussy, the whole thing. And then the womb as well, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the yin of
Yes.
the yin and the yang. So after that it was like feather tickling,
Mm.
and then it gets heavier and heavier. In case your mom wants to listen to this episode, I'm not gonna say, but yeah, for those of you that are interested, you should totally DM me on lovebites.co. But
Okay.
it's interesting, and I think more and more activities like this should be like out there and like in the mass, because it
Yes.
helps anything at all that's experimental, that helps couples come together, literally
So much.
come
I
to
love it. Come
come
together.
together, just refinding that intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
I think is beautiful. Like using creativity with these activities, right? A lot of long-term couples, maybe married, maybe not, maybe cohabitating, maybe with kids but not married. A lot of long-term couples typically say like, we ran out of things to do. Like, what are we doing
Mm.
after this, right? Like, yeah, we start touching each other, then we walk to the bed, then we go through the what is the normal Western sexual script, which
Mm-hmm.
is like a little bit of foreplay, literally less than 5 minutes, which is really sad. And then you just penetrate, and then that's done. Usually it ends when he ejaculates, and she sometimes comes, sometimes doesn't. So
Yeah.
that's like the normal like Western sexual script, which is all the wrong things.
Okay. I didn't even realize you're saying it's a Western thing. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'm saying it as a Western thing because in sexual script theory, every culture is different. For example, in India, a lot of times the two people come together the first time and have a sexual experience. They've never met,
Oh, wow.
or maybe they have met and never touched. They never kissed. They got married through arranged marriage, and then they have sex.
Wow.
And then there's a few cultures that are like that. There's also cultures where mistresses are completely common
Mm-hmm.
and accepted, and is a part of the fabric of of the culture of the society, and it's completely okay. I
Mm-hmm.
was talking about how in the 1800s, brothels were everywhere in the United States. Like big cities all have brothels, and it's a legitimate business with like signs and everything, and men like at lunch would stand in
Oh.
line outside
Oh,
to
wow.
wait for their turn to pay for sex.
Lunch
Think
break.
about this,
What?
1800s, like brothels were legal. It's
Okay.
interesting, right? how
Yeah.
how like from that, and then we swung like the opposite.
Exactly.
We
And it's
swung
so
to no
secret
sex.
and so
Oh,
wrong and so
right.
dirty. And I don't know. I feel like so many of the best things in life can be made and turned so wrong and
Yeah.
hurtful. And so I love what you're saying of there needs to be more of these experiences out there of ideas to bring us back together to
Yeah,
ourselves and to the people that we are sharing our sexuality with. Because
totally.
for me, for someone who is, comes from that timid background and from some pain, sexual pain and trauma, that was incredibly important for me to find that openness and safety, and that it wasn't scary, but it all seemed so scary to me. Sex feast, sex fast, like what? No, that sounds so scary. I'm not going to do that. And then
Yeah.
actually participating in something like that can be beautiful and healing.
Beautiful. So, can you talk a little bit more about your sex feast? Um, because any sexual act, so it can be any sexual activity. It doesn't have to be penetration at all. And the thing that you have to do is you say yes for 30
Yes.
days. So, like the 30-day sex feast.
Yes.
Okay.
And what I think most people find is that I think we go in thinking my partner's the high desire, or I am the high desire, and they don't want it all the time. But when you're both committed and saying yes no matter what, that kind of turns off. And it gives some more freedom to, instead of being labeled as a low or high desire, of just saying, I'm here and I'm
Yeah.
here for it. Like, who cares? And I might initiate and you might initiate. And I've heard back from so many people who've done it, who it becomes more like you're dating again. It's fun. It's
Oh,
flirty. You're sending texts during the day. You're thinking about each other rather than totally cut off all day and then
right.
getting home and, man, I really could have some great sex right now. And you're both depleted and tired.
Right, right. And then like let's do that 5 minute foreplay and let's just
Let's
fuck.
just hurry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the fast food version of
Yeah.
sexual
Which is
pleasure.
fine every now and then.
Yes.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need the buffet. We need
Yes.
the 10-course meal, right?
I want the 10 course meal.
Yes. Same here. Sign me up.
Yes. Yes. Michelin star sex. So you you've been healing and on this journey for a long time now, and now
Yes.
you are currently dating. Do you still feel there are certain sexual blockages from the betrayal? Or you feel like a lot more open and positive and yeah, like are you on that track now? How do you feel?
I am on track.
Yeah,
And I could say I feel lucky, but I've done a lot of work. And so I'm
you
not
have.
lucky. I'm not lucky. I've worked really hard to let go, to surrender, and to find myself. I mean, even last night, I bought an online course more. I just continue to invest in myself and
Yeah.
my own understanding of myself and my body for me and for the person I get to experience it with. So I'm never going to say I'm healed and I'm perfect, but I definitely never have triggers around any of that stuff anymore, which I feel grateful for. But
Yeah.
also, it's taken some work for me to get there.
Some work, a lot of work.
A lot of
So
work.
now when you have sex, does it feel like sex is great? Sex is for me. I deserve pleasure. I deserve connection.
It is an entirely different script for me. It is the empowered sexual goddess. It is,
Yes.
I'm here for this, for me and for the person I am choosing. Yes, you're swaying. Yes, I do feel that. And it is, I don't know how to describe it. It's out of the world, out of this world. That is the pleasure that I believe all deserve, that I'm
Yes.
sure that many are missing out on. I was one of
Yes.
them for how many years, decades.
Right, right. And I love that you're sharing that. And I love that you're saying that like we all deserve
We
this.
do.
Like we really do. I mean, our sexuality is embedded in us, literally in the body,
Yes.
right? It's in the body, it's in the mind, it's how we evolved. So talking about like evolutionary theory and like people who don't have sex, right? There are a lot of people that are in sexless marriages and sexless relationships.
Yes.
That itself, like the not having sex and not having like sensual touch,
Mhm.
can become quite detrimental.
Oh, yes. And in fact, after my divorce, that was one of the prescribed things to do from my therapist was go get a massage. You need
Yes.
touch. You need touch without expectation, that's safe and boundaried. And it's funny because I sent my mom, who's a widow, to do the same thing. Mom, you need a massage. And she said, the minute that they put their hand on her back, it's like, oh, like I've mistouched. Hugging your child is very different than hugging someone, like, or having touch from someone that's
You're attracted to.
you're attracted. It's very different.
It is. Yeah, it is. I hug my parents all the time when I see them. They're in Thailand, but when I see them, like we're affectionate people.
Mhm.
Um Now, yeah, not so much growing up, but now I think they have evolved as well.
Yes.
So now we hug, my mom and I, we hug all the time, but it is very different from like hugging my partner.
Yes.
Um, yeah, when I hug my partner and if we hug a long time, I think I get a boner.
It's that pelvic to pelvic floor, like the hugging that's real,
Yeah,
like a good 20 seconds of just, yeah, it is. It just resets all of those feelings inside of us. I love it.
I love it. We have to embrace more.
Yes.
That's for sure. I think
Yes.
that's typically my number one prescription of couples that are sexless is just start with a hug.
Yeah.
Start with embracing longer. Because maybe you do. Maybe you like kiss like on the cheeks before you go to work. But all of those things are so automated now. They're not
Yeah.
intentional. You know, when you leave a room and you say like, okay, bye, I love you. Like
Yes.
that's an automated speech.
Yes.
Like a robot can say that. Okay, bye, I love you.
Yes.
It's not the same as sitting down or standing up, embracing each other for 15, 20 seconds straight, and then look in the eyes and then say, I love you.
Yes.
You
Going
know?
out of your way to be intentional about your affection.
Exactly.
Yes.
Intentional affection.
It feels different. And I mean, there's so many parts of this story for me that I'm leaving out, but that was one of them is I'm going to be intentional about touch so that I could feel it inside of me wanting to break out. And even within that marriage saying, I can't even freely give it all the time. I wanted to, but I couldn't. And I remember going to my therapist after divorce and saying, I can feel this like bubbling up inside of me, but I was going on dates and giving side hugs. I was terrified of touch.
Oh,
I know they made fun of me. It's fine.
oh, I want to give you a hug right now.
I will give you a full hug. I promise.
Yes.
But it just it was so much. But he said, when you feel safe with someone, it will naturally come. You don't need to go and do therapy on this. It's already within you. And he was right. That can just naturally come the minute you feel safe. And so there's so many parts of this that it reset for me and just showed me that it can be so simple and so pleasurable at the same time.
Thank you for that. Can you share specifically for you and how you teach other women, like what are the 3 ways to know what safe feels like for those people that have never had a conversation about safety and are now listening to this and realizing, oh, wow, like I haven't felt safe. And I'm trying to know what feeling safe is or what it means or what it feels like. What is feeling safe to you?
Okay. I've never been asked that question and it's a beautiful question. So let's see how I do. I know what doesn't feel like, that's for sure. But feeling for me, fear's here in my chest, right? And it spins like anxiety, but my gut is where I feel safety and I can trust which one am I trusting, right? So for learning to trust yourself again, knowing that I can feel calm in my own body, or let's say I am sitting next to my person, I'm not going to be spinning. I'm going to feel calm. If we're questioning our partner's location, if we're questioning their intentions, their words, I hate it, but so many of the breaches of trust and affairs happen at work. And so when there's, when you feel misunderstood, like there's a lot of confusion around, they said they were going on this business trip and now they're in this city, or there's a hotel bill for that. Like it's very confusing. That is where you're saying, I don't feel trust. And if we're asking our partner questions and the answers are spinning back to us of we're crazy, that doesn't feel like safety. So when I have a partner who is not only willing to be super transparent about everything and honest, I love when a man can say that woman is beautiful.
Yes.
I have a crush on that woman right now. That's honesty.
Yes.
I didn't have a partner who was that way because the fear of making me feel bad.
Right.
When we're sexual beings, we're human beings. We can think each other is beautiful, even if we are in a committed relationship with someone else. So for me, a lot of it is the way my body feels and that the calmness and really regularly checking in with myself. Do I feel safe?
Right.
Am I okay? Where am I feeling this?
The body is so intelligent.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm learning more and more about, people who work in embodiment and just like learning to listen to the body. It sounds so woo-woo from like a scientific, scientific perspective, but it really is intelligent and it tells you when something is wrong. Like the simplest way to think about this is like when you have a stomach ache after eating something bad. right?
Yes.
Like your body tells you when
There's a
something is
cue.
wrong. It works the same when you're in a bad relationship. It tells you.
Yes. Ooh, I
Yeah.
like that. That's a
Yeah.
good, make a reel about that right now.
I gotta. And
Because it's true. It can be that simple, but sometimes when our gut is telling us something, we don't want to listen because the answer is scary. The answer
yeah,
is not what we want to hear. Because I remember feeling those feelings. I and I straight up asked my then partner, "Are you cheating?" And of course, a partner is going to, I mean, rarely do people say, "Yes, I am." They say no. And then it's that distrust of self again, where we
right.
start questioning, are we crazy? Why am I feeling this? Where's it
Oh,
coming from?
yeah.
So the ability for me, trust and safety is in my own self. It's in my own body.
I love that. That's a really good call to action to observe your body
Mm,
and honor how you feel in your body. It will tell you, right? When
yes.
I was in a relationship where I wasn't fulfilled, I would get like neck pain and shoulder pain all the time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
I never thought about it. I just thought like, oh, maybe I'm working too much, but I was working less than now. So now I know like it does feel like something in the body. I
Yes.
just didn't know then what it meant.
Okay, so this is fascinating. I have to tell you real quick. So I had this shoulder pain, my left shoulder, which is my feminine and emotional side of my body, where all those emotions are stored. I went to a surgeon. I went to do physical therapy. I went to an energy massage therapist saying, "What is wrong with the shoulder?" They couldn't find anything wrong with it, but I couldn't even lift it past my head. And this was all during COVID, the lockdown. So 2020. So I stopped working out my shoulders. I was like, I don't know what's wrong, but I've permanently damaged my shoulder. When my then partner asked for a divorce, the next day, guess what no longer hurt? And it hasn't hurt since. My shoulder.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the craziest? So,
That's
yes, our bodies definitely keep the score. And they're like, hey, 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 wake up, listen to me. I just was going in it the wrong way, I guess.
that's your divorce shoulder.
In my divorce shoulder. Oh my gosh. It's true.
This
Do
has
you
been
have
such a.
divorce shoulder?
Do you have divorce? This is like an ad.
We know how to help.
There's a paralegal ad. Okay. My last question is: so for someone who has had, betrayal trauma in a relationship, and a lot of people that are in the world that are listening, that are a part of Luvbites community, may have had the same experience. What would you recommend is the first step in even going on this sexual well-being journey
Mm.
from all of that betrayal trauma? What's a good first step?
Um, I'm going to say education.
Yes.
Just understanding that you're normal. If you are feeling maybe outside your body, outside your mind, and your intuition, and just feeling alone, that's normal. But there are also so many people and resources to help to reconnect you to yourself. So, education is where I started and finding that community. And then I started therapy. And it was very specified therapy for someone who has been betrayed so that the therapist understood where my head was at and how to get me out of that.
Yes. So education, reach out,
Hmm.
right? Reach out.
Yes.
You're not alone.
No. And so the women's groups that I facilitate, they are all virtual and around the world, and that's the crazy part is this is not just I'm in Utah where it is very, Christian. It
Right.
is not just a Utah Christian thing. This is all over the world.
Yeah.
And so for us to come together and see that, oh, not only for a lot of us, women are the problem because our partners had affairs with women. Women are not the problem. Women help women, and we need women to heal. And so to find other women as not the enemy and someone to be triggered by, but to love. All of my best relationships have come as I've healed. The most beautiful women that I could feel jealous of, but I don't. I love them. So yeah,
Oh,
we need support.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for spending time with us today at Love Bites and having this cool conversation that's candid and funny. So
You're
many
the best.
reels moments.
Yes. I'll be looking for that reel. I will share it when you make it.
Yes, I will have Ashlynn's information in today's show notes. For those of you that felt like this was a valuable episode for you, please share it on your social media and tag me. I'd love to hear from you. DM me with your questions. Reach out to Ashlynn with the information in the show notes. And thank you so much, Ashlynn, for being here.
Yes. Thank you for having me. You're the best.
And thank you, my loves, for listening till the end of the episode. Love you and have an orgasmic day.
Thanks for listening. This was Love Bites. Love Bites by Dr. Tara. Follow Dr. Tara on social media at lovebites.co. Have an orgasmic day.